The early morning sun shimmered off the runway, catching the sleek silver body of the Gulfstream G800 parked quietly at a private terminal. It was a jet built for power, its design understated but unmistakably exclusive. The tail bore an emblem only those in elite circles would recognize. But that was exactly how Danica Monroe liked it. She didn't need applause, grand entrances, or name recognition. Her presence alone was statement enough. Dressed in tailored black slacks, a slate silk blouse, and a structured charcoal wool trench, Danica walked toward the stairway with a deliberate calm. The only visible indulgence she wore was a pair of gold cufflinks and a slim watch. In her left hand, she carried a caramel leather tote, in her right, the small, eager hand of her son, Silas. At just 6 years old, Silas carried a glow of curiosity wherever he went. His sandy hair tousled from sleep, his sea-glass green eyes flickering as he took in the terminal's polished glass and tarmac activity. He laughed softly as they moved, his joy a delicate hum in the otherwise still air. But standing at the top of the stairs like a guardian of the skies was Heather Klein, the lead flight attendant. Her blonde bun was knotted so tightly it could slice through tension. Her uniform was flawless, her expression unreadable, and her eyes sharp, cold, calculating. As Danica and Silas approached, Heather raised a manicured hand. "Ma'am," she said with plastic professionalism, "the flight crew isn't ready for passengers yet. I'll need you to wait inside the lounge." Danica met her eyes without hesitation. "We've been cleared for boarding. It's in the director's log." Heather didn't budge. Then they made a mistake. "We follow standard protocol here, internal crew checks before passenger entry." Her eyes flicked to Silas. "And minors should remain inside for safety." Danica didn't argue. She nodded once, turned as if to return to the lounge, and then paused. Heather gave a small, almost imperceptible nod to a man near the luggage carton, airport contractor wearing a terminal security badge. He tossed his coffee aside and walked toward Danica. "Ma'am," he said with fake nonchalance, "mind if I take a quick look inside your bag?" He didn't say it was random or protocol because it wasn't. It was profiling with a smile. Danica said nothing, just handed over her tote. Inside were protein bars, a tablet, Silas's art pencils, wipes, and some annotated financial documents. The man sifted through it clumsily, zipped it shut, and handed it back. "All good," he said. 10 minutes later, as boarding began, Danica and Silas walked up the stairs without another word. Silas tugged her hand. "Mama, why'd that man look through your stuff?" Danica bent down slightly. "Some people don't understand what's different," she said gently. "But we don't let them tell us who we are." Inside the cabin, the air smelled of polished wood and bergamot. Gold-trimmed leather seats, flickering mood lights, and untouched champagne glasses created an atmosphere of hushed luxury. Another attendant, Julia, with auburn curls and warm eyes, offered a small smile as Danica and Silas entered. But Heather appeared again, blocking the aisle with her tablet. "We've had issues in the past," she said, eyes flicking to Silas. "Caretakers boarding instead of clients. I just need to confirm you're on the manifest." Danica raised an eyebrow. "You don't think I am?" Heather tapped her screen, pretending to search. Danica's name appeared in bold, primary account holder, owner-tier status. Heather didn't acknowledge it. Just routine. Danica swept past her without another word, helped Silas into seat 1A, and reclined with grace. Across the aisle, a couple sipped sparkling wine. The man stared. The woman smiled politely. Heather lingered, her jaw tight. "She's on the manifest," Julia whispered to Heather. "Owner tier." Heather scowled. "Keep an eye out. I don't like inconsistencies." Then she returned again. "We'll need a copy of the legal guardianship for the child," she said, as if asking for a coffee order. Danica blinked. "Guardianship?" "Yes, ma'am. For high-profile charters, we require custody confirmation." Danica's voice dropped an octave. "My name is on the manifest. I paid for this aircraft. I gave birth to him." Heather gave a thin-lipped smile. "Just policy. We'll need it before landing." A few rows back, a woman in a diamond brooch perked up, pretending not to eavesdrop. Heather soon returned with a one-page form. Also, a non-disclosure waiver for VIP privacy. No filming. Danica didn't reach for it. "I've flown this route 7 times this year. No waiver. And I'm not filming." "It's new," Heather replied. Danica scanned it. It was a Fakino legal basis. "I'll review it," she said, setting it aside. 15 minutes into the flight, the drink cart arrived. Passengers received crystal glasses etched with Skylux's emblem. Silas got a child-sized glass with orange juice. Danica? A flimsy plastic cup of lukewarm water. She held it up, amused. Short on glassware today? Julia flinched, said nothing, and moved on. Then dinner service. I'm so sorry, Heather crooned. We've run out of sea bass. Here's our backup. She presented a microwaved vegetarian creamy wilted broccoli and rice. Silas frowned. Why isn't yours like theirs? Danica smiled gently. Someone made a mistake. But it's still dinner. Heather hovered, waiting for resistance. None came. Back in the galley, Heather muttered to Julia she didn't even push back. She's probably used to it, Julia said quietly. Later, Heather leaned toward a passenger in 2A, a woman named Ms. Aldridge. Any concerns? Heather asked. Ms. Aldridge glanced toward Danica and Silas. Is she the nanny? That's what we believe, Heather whispered. No documents. We're verifying. The lie spread like wildfire. Passengers whispered. One filmed Danica from across the aisle. Someone snapped a photo when she tucked Silas under a blanket. Heather added it to a crew chat with a message, too many nannies in first class lately. Laughing emojis followed. Then came the ultimate humiliation. Heather returned. Some passengers are uncomfortable. We'd like to move you to a more suitable area. More legroom. A fold-out cot. Danica blinked. Are you suggesting this cabin is too refined for me? Heather smiled thinly. Everyone would be more comfortable. Danica looked at Silas, then back. He's fine. I didn't request a change. It's a courtesy, Heather pressed. Danica stood. I've endured worse. But I won't reward ignorance with compliance. Her voice echoed. Passengers went still. Julia froze. Darren, a newer crew member, avoided her gaze. Heather's eyes darted. Please don't make this difficult. Danica sat. Unless you're removing me by force, I will remain in the seat I paid for on the aircraft I commissioned. The moment cracked something in Heather. Back in the galley, she hissed to Darren. Start with the boy. Moments later, Darren approached Silas. Hi there, little man. Wanna come talk in the back real quick? Danica looked up. Is there a reason? Darren hesitated. Just a courtesy for kids flying with guardians. No, Danica said. He's fine here. The virus of doubt spread again. Then Heather accessed the control panel and cut the Wi-Fi to Danica's seat. Julia watched, horrified. Danica tried reconnecting. Nothing. Wi-Fi down, she asked Julia. Julia paused. I'll check. Heather strolled past. Everyone else seems fine. Must be a glitch. You understand. Danica didn't flinch. Didn't realize Wi-Fi had preferences. The flight descended. But instead of standard disembarkation, a second ramp extended. A black SUV pulled up. 3 individuals boarded 2 men in suits, 1 woman with a folder. They ignored Heather completely. Are you Whitney Klein? One asked. Yes, she said. This aircraft belongs to Monroe Aviation Group. Do you know who founded it? Heather paled. Danica stood. Silas took her hand. The woman in black handed Danica a pen. MS. Monroe, everything is ready. Danica looked at Heather. You spent 6 hours trying to shrink me. You failed. She exited the plane, calm as ever. Inside Skylux headquarters, the surveillance footage played Heather's comments, actions, treatment of Danica streamed into a live emergency shareholder meeting. Heather was fired on the spot. Her name flagged across the industry. Recruiters ignored her. Her contract canceled. Her license under review. And then, irony. Weeks later, she found a listing, entry-level program assistant. Monroe Flight Academy. She applied. 3 days later, she was invited for a group interview. She almost left when she saw Danica dressed in a sweater and jeans laughing with students. But Danica nodded. During introductions, Heather stood. I'm Heather, she said. I once forgot what this industry was built on. I want to start over. Afterward, Danica approached her. I remember you, she said. Heather braced for rejection. But Danica continued. That mural off the girl with the airplane, she was inspired by someone who once made me feel small. I wanted her to fly anyway. Heather didn't understand until Danica handed her a badge. Trial assistant. 1 week. 6 a.m. Shift. No ceremony. No redemption arc, just a beginning. Heather stared at the badge in her hand. It was thin plastic, clipped to a plain blue lanyard. The words Trial Assistant, printed beneath her name in block letters. No title, no prestige, just function. She swallowed hard. The weight of her past still clung to her like stale perfume. But this was different. This wasn't a punishment. It was a test. A quiet chance to earn something she had once thought beneath her, humility. The next morning, Heather arrived at 5:50 a.m. dressed in simple khakis and a cotton button-up. No heels, no makeup, no hair pulled back into a painfully perfect bun. She carried a reusable water bottle and a tote bag filled with notebooks, pens, and a backup charger. The South LA sunrise hadn't yet broken the clouds, and the building looked almost sleepy under the amber street lamps. But inside, the place was already alive. Students filed into the main hallway, some carrying flight textbooks, others laughing about simulator mishaps from the day before. Their energy was loud, pure, unfiltered. It unsettled her at first. She wasn't used to being around people who weren't trying to impress or judge her. Her first task? Print and sort 45 copies of the week's flight schedule. The printer jammed on her second try. By 7 a.m., she was carrying paper reams under one arm and a box of granola bars under the other, weaving through tables as students arrived for the first workshop. No one recognized her. No one whispered. To them, she was just another helper trying not to drop anything. At 8 a.m., she took inventory of headphones and seat cushions used in the simulator lab. At 9:30, she helped organize a stack of weather pattern charts that had been accidentally printed in reverse order. And at 10:15, Danica walked in. Still dressed simply. Still unguarded. But this time, she looked at Heather like an equal. Not forgiven, not forgotten, or recognized as a human being trying. MS. Monroe, Heather said quietly. Danica stopped beside her. You don't have to call me that here, she said. Everyone's on a first-name basis. Heather nodded. Danica, then. Danica nodded back, then added, the coffee was terrible this morning. If you want to take charge of ordering next week's blend, I'd appreciate it. It was small, but it mattered. Over the next week, Heather learned to listen instead of lead. She found herself surrounded by students who reminded her of why aviation had drawn her in to begin with. Flight wasn't about luxury. It was about possibility. About movement. About expanding the world you lived in and helping others do the same. She met Amari, a 16-year-old who had memorized every engine model since 2005. She met Talia, who had rebuilt an altimeter from scrap electronics and wanted to become the first black woman to lead a NASA shuttle crew. She met Marcus, a student on the autism spectrum who taught her how to recalibrate the flight sim sensors when they glitched. And through it all, Danica watched but never hovered. She allowed Heather to sweat through the work, stumble through her discomfort, and rebuild herself one small act at a time. By the second Friday, Heather stood at the front of the room handing out student badges for the upcoming regional aviation fair. Her hair was in a loose ponytail, and her shirt bore a Monroe Academy logo. No title, still. Just the work. That afternoon, Danica called her into the office. I've extended your trial to 3 months, she said. Heather's heart jumped. I thank you. Danica sat on the edge of her desk, arms crossed. You're not here because I want you to repay anything. That's not how this works. Heather nodded slowly. Then why am I here? Danica exhaled. Because the aviation world is full of people who think they're better than the ones they serve. You became one of them. But I believe people can unlearn that if they're willing to sit in the discomfort long enough. I am, Heather whispered. Danica tilted her head. We'll see. There's a career day next month. We host students from schools with no aviation programs. They've never seen a plane up close. I want you to lead the tour. Heather blinked. You want me to represent the academy? Danica stood. I want them to see someone who once forgot what it meant to help others and chose to relearn it anyway. It wasn't a second chance. It was a real one. That night, Heather sat alone on the roof of her apartment complex, watching the faint blinking lights of planes high above the city. For the first time in months, she didn't feel bitterness in her chest. She felt weightless. Not redeemed, but untethered from who she'd been. And somewhere, far above, another private jet sliced through the clouds, one she used to serve. One she had once tried to control. But she no longer envied it. Because this time, the sky wasn't something she served. It was something she was finally working toward, one lesson, one morning shift, one repaired soul at a time.